following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
What's up, rock soldiers? This is Robbie Vegas coming at you again with another episode of the All Bets Are Off podcast. Today we have Rayen Belchere coming on. You may know Rayen from his time in Wednesday 13, playing with Bourbon Crow, or his amazing solo career up to this point. Rayen has a lot of cool stuff to talk about today. So before we jump into that, I do want to remind you to check out our first sponsor, which is Unchained Muscle. You can go to unchainedmuscle.co.uk. Check them out for all of your gym needs as far as shaker bottles, hats, shirts, shorts. They got men's, they got women's, and of course, you support them, they support us. It keeps the podcast going. So I'll need you guys to go check them out. Use code RVegas20 to save 20% on checkout. And of course, head over to the mental health charity section where a portion of the proceeds will go to mental health charity. So let's jump into this episode with Rayen. And of course, we're looking for your feedback. So make sure you rate, like, and subscribe. And let us know what you want to hear more of and that you're enjoying the show.
My bed, I don't want to wake you, but I've got to get this off my chest. All these things I never thought I'd say. My friends always told me I would find you someday, and this is unexpected, not a part of my plan. I never thought that one night I would meet my forever night stand.
All right, Rayen, first thing I want to do is thank you for being on the show. Truly appreciate your time, brother. Thank you very much.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you reaching out.
Of course.
Robbie Vegas, y'all.
So let's just start very beginning. We're going to take it all the way back. How old were you when you first started getting into music, and what attracted you to it?
Man, it's really cliche, but it's just the goddamn truth as far as I'm concerned. As far as, when it comes to me, is music was a thing that I always knew. Dude, I wrote my first song. It was called about the power lines over my house when I was in kindergarten. And I couldn't even read and write. It's something I literally always did. I told my third grade teacher that I wanted to be a rock star, and she told me to come up with something realistic. So I sent her a picture of us playing at Castle Donington with a big "fuck you" on it. So yeah, I've ever since the third grade, I've been "fuck you." I'm a musician. Long time.
I love that. That's awesome. So you said you started pretty much writing songs as far back as you can remember. When did you start learning how to play guitar?
My grandfather bought me a guitar from a little flea market guitar. And if you don't know what a flea market is, it's just a place people go set up shop and sell random stuff. And it was, looking back on it, you play guitar, right?
I do.
The action on it was so bad. Like, the strings were so off the fretboard that it about crushed my fingers. But I learned a G chord, and my dad told me if I could play a song all the way through, he'd buy me a better one. So I did, and he did. So since about probably 8 or 9, but I don't consider myself a guitar player. I play well enough to write.
So you would consider yourself more of just a songwriter?
Yeah, more of a songwriter, singer-songwriter guy. I mean, I can play bass, obviously, well enough. I can play guitar well enough, but I don't even try to consider myself a guitar player or a bass player when you consider other guys that are out there.
Okay, fair enough. And now, do you remember how old you were, give or take, when you started performing live shows?
My first show was when I was 16.
Okay.
In Chester, South Carolina, at a place called, what was it called? I can't remember. But the band that went on after us, I remember this. The singer this was in a bar in the middle of deep South Carolina. The first night I play a show, the headlining band, the guy did a fire breathing trick in a bar, which was, whatever. But but then he tried to put the fire out with Everclear.
Oh,
yeah. So let's put it this way. I saw a Kiss concert on my first night ever playing. And, but yeah, I was 16 years old.
That's awesome. And you mentioned Kiss. They're a huge influence on you, right?
Absolutely. First 10 years. And then Revenge. Those are Kiss for me. The rest of the stuff, I don't necessarily not dig. When I willing to listen to Kiss, I listen to the early stuff. So.
Yes, yeah, I'm along with you there because they're my favorite band of all time, and Revenge is probably my favorite Kiss album besides the earlier stuff.
Yeah,
but
exactly the same. I saw Kiss on the Revenge tour. We were talking about Wednesday earlier. He was there too, and we both got Faster Pussycat T-shirts, and we both got kicked out of school because on the back of the shirts it said "Pussy Whipped." We were both in high school, but I saw Kiss on that tour. Apparently, that tour was pretty short-lived, but it was Trickster, Faster Pussycat, and Kiss. I'm pretty sure that was the lineup.
That's a lineup I would enjoy. We have a lot of the same musical tastes.
Yeah.
I gotta plug something now because we're talking about Kiss, and I didn't expect that, but I will be actually performing at Darien Lake in the VIP tent for the Kiss farewell tour. So there's a show for anybody in this area of New York. So had to throw that in there.
Hell yeah, you are. They're here Saturday, and I'm upset because I can't go. I'm going to be in Philadelphia doing a gig, but I've seen Kiss so many times it's ridiculous. I saw them the first time in the Revenge. No, I saw them Hot in the Shade, Revenge, 05 reunion, and then probably 10 times since randomly. I saw them at the last show they played at Cobo Hall in Detroit, which they filmed. They were supposed to put on a DVD, but they haven't yet. But if you see live at Cobo Hall by Kiss, I'm the dude who's front row center. That's like 6'4". That's me.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, man.
Well, let me loop it back around to your music now. In 2004, you released your album Heartaches, Hangovers, and a Whole Lot of Hope. So where did the title come from for that? And like looking back on that, what does that album mean to you now? Man,
that's a great question. The title, I was trying to think of a title, and I was looking at all the songs, and every song I write, I don't really do co-writes. I don't believe in having 6 people on a song. I think for me, it's a singular expression of something. Not trying to get too artsy on you, but it's just what I believe. I tend to like songs better from one perspective.
Yeah.
And so I wrote this record during a time where there's a song on there called Man on the Moon I wrote about my first heartbreak when I was like 18. And I looked at all the songs. I'm like, okay, what should I call this record? Should I call it this? Should I call it that? And I'm like, no. So I was just like, what is this record about? And I wrote it. I was like, well, it's about heartaches, hangovers, and I'm hopeful, because there's a song called Doing Fine on there.
Yeah.
And so I tried to think of other words, and at some point it just came to me to put them all together. I'm like, this is an honest record, and that's an honest title. So there's songs on that record about love, being heartbroken, partying, just jamming. But that record's, there's a song on there called Forever Nightstand. I know you like that song that I love that people still use in weddings, all the time. So I love that record.
Yeah, I mean, that song still, I listen to that song at least once a week. I actually cover it.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. Thank you. That was an honor.
Oh, thank you for allowing me to. I appreciate it. Me and my lady both love that song.
Thank you.
So then from there, in 2005, you were playing with Wednesday 13 on the Transylvania 90210 record, and you were touring with him as well. So that's a big change from what you do with your solo career. So first question is, how do you know Wednesday? And the follow-up to that would be, how did you end up performing on this record and tour?
Well, going back to my roots, after my crazy high school garage band, I had a band called Silly Scream. And I hope it's not too loud, but Silly Scream. And it was like a glam punk pop band, very much like the Zeros, the Trash Brats. If you guys don't know who those bands are, check them out. They're great. But we wore makeup. We did the whole deal. And Wednesday at the time had a band called Maniac Spider Trash in Charlotte. And we were the only 2 makeup bands. And we became friends. And he wasn't even Wednesday 13 at this time. This was when we were both 17, 18, something like that.
Yeah.
we just became friends, you know, and we talk on the phone and chat and hang out and stuff. And we, you know, I'm in a Frankenstein drag queen photo shoot, you know, and like we were just buddies, you know, we were always cool. It seemed like both of us seemed to have had problems with almost everybody in the scene but us, you know, so we're both really, you know, we're cool with each other. And he invited me up. No, actually, I was going to the studio to pick up one of my masters. I hadn't talked to him in a little while. It'd been a minute. And I went up to the studio. We recorded at the same place with a guy named Jamie Hoover. And I went up to pick up my masters. And he was there. And I listened to his music. And then he goes, "Hey, you should sing background vocals." And it was Bad Things. Okay. And I was like, yeah, I was like the second person to ever even hear it besides Jamie. Holy shit, this is a great song, like really great song. And then he had me sing background vocals on I Walk With a Zombie. I was like, holy shit, dude, you have like a really great record. And then he Didn't Haunt Me, and then all these other songs that were just brilliant songs. And I'm like, dude, if you need any help with anything, man, because this was right after the first Murder Doll record.
Yes. Yep.
And then he just called me up and he gifted me the blessing of being the bass player because he knew I was capable enough to play what he needed. And it was like, dude, awesome. So, you know, so he's forever A+ in my book for that. And so he just said, "Hey, dude, you want to do it?" And I already had kind of longer hair, and he taught me how to turn them into dreadlocks. And I cut the back half of my hair off and had a mohawk. And yeah, and I just was in the band. You know, it's kind of like sometimes lightning strikes, I guess. And that was one of those moments. Had I not went up to the studio that day, who knows what would have never happened. It was like Marty McFly and Back to the Future.
Yeah, right.
You know. So, but yeah, that, I mean, and you know, a lot of people think, you know, if you left the band, it was something bad. It wasn't that at all. It was that I had a solo career, which you just brought up, that was doing really good. That record was doing really well. I couldn't turn down the opportunity to be a rock star either. So I had to make a decision after we did, I don't know, all the tours, went around the world and everything. I was offered a deal with Aware Records, which was working with John Mayer too, and Jason Mraz, I think.
Oh wow, okay.
And I was offered to work with those guys, and I really wanted to do both. You know, to be honest, I loved being in Wednesday's band. I loved the fans, and I loved everything about it. But, you know, when you're also a songwriter and a performer, if somebody comes along and says, you know, if you're the backup quarterback and there's a team that needs a starting quarterback, you might love the team, but you got to say, hey, I want to play too, you know? So I was offered this deal, and I'm like, man, I'm going to go for my own stuff. And to be honest, the biggest supporter of me doing that was Wednesday. So he's like, because I called him, I'm like, dude, I'm conflicted. He was like, no, dude, do your music. And so we had already recorded the first Bourbon Crow record at that point, and or it was right around that time. So we've been able to stay connected and play and that sort of thing through that. But that's how all that worked out.
Wow, that's awesome, and it's cool to hear that he was supportive too. I've been around Wednesday. I can't even tell you how many times, and he is. I've never had a bad experience. He's a good guy.
Oh, he's fantastic, man. We're from the same place, you know. I mean, it's. I'm really, really, really happy this new record's gonna get a good push, you know, because I think he's just as good as Rob Zombie, Marilyn Manson, any of those guys. And that's not just because he's my buddy, but you hand those guys a guitar in the room, I don't know what they're coming out with. That's not to say anything negative. Wednesday's a great songwriter. I think he's just as good as any of them. So I really, really excited about it. So little plug for for his new record, Necrophage. Y'all make sure to check it out, Wednesday 13.
Yeah, September 27th. That's when that'll be available to everybody. And, you know, I got to say, too, we had a few weeks back an episode of this podcast where we actually talked about how Wednesday 13 is better than Rob Zombie and these guys who are out there and been doing this on a huge level for a long time. He is a very underrated musician, songwriter. He's pretty much a genius when it comes to music.
Well, here's the thing. I'm not shitting on Rob Zombie. I love Rob Zombie.
Oh, same.
Same. I really do. So anybody out there, I'm not shitting on him. Wednesday just has a depth to him that I don't think those guys do. If you don't believe me, go listen to Bourbon Crow, Take a Bullet for You, listen to any of those real songs he wrote. And then you look at a guy that's never took that chance and go, well, man, this guy showed me another tool in his toolkit. I think Wednesday has more tools in his toolkit than most people give him credit for.
Agreed.
He's a really, really great songwriter.
I couldn't agree more. And which brings me into my next question. So 2006 was the debut album for Bourbon Crow. So that's like an outlaw country project. And so how did that end up coming about? You said it was after or during the Transylvania 90210 days that you recorded that.
Maybe not. Maybe my memory's off. I take Ambien, so just forewarned. I'll give you a year-ish. So right around the time-ish I left the band to pursue my own stuff, Wednesday and we had always joked on the road, like, country music to both of us, I think I can speak for him because we've talked about it. Mm-hmm. Country music for both of us, it was something our parents listened to, but we didn't understand. We were never brokenhearted. We never had to pay a shit ton of bills and lose our jobs and take care of kids and dogs. We never had that. So as kids, we wanted to, listen to Kiss. Like people who came from outer space. Right. But as adults, when we were on tour, this is going to date me really bad, but what do they call the iPods? The iPod.
Yeah.
Shuffle. We would put in different iPods, like put Ben's iPod or put on Wednesday's iPod or whatever, Piggy D's iPod. Well, it was one of my days, and we were jamming and put it on random, and I want to say a Hank Williams Jr. song came on, and Wednesday looked at me. He was like, "Man, you know what? For the first time, I understand what he's singing about because I never got it till now." I'm like, "Yeah, dude." So I started to turn him on to other outlaw country dudes that we knew all the music. He goes, "I get it," and he goes, "Dude, we should do a record like that sometime." And I was like, "Dude, I totally would. Let's do it." And I think. Can't remember exactly how it happened, but I want to say we just talked about it so much. We talked to our manager at the time, who also had a record label, and the manager really got behind the idea and offered to do the record and put it out. And we were like, "Yeah, let's do it. Fuck it." And a lot of people don't give him credit for a lot of rock and roll dudes are doing country now.
Yeah,
and there are a lot of them. Not only is he a rock dude, but he's a shock rock dude, which I am too. That's my history. I come from shock rock as well with Silly Scream, and I had a band called Lunatic Candy Creek.
I love that name.
Yeah, I have a history in that stuff as well. But dude, that guy was the first in whatever it was to put his nuts on the table and be like, "I want to switch the game up," and he did. And now you see all these other dudes, and I'm not saying they're riding anybody else's idea, but he had a lot to lose putting out Bourbon Crow.
Yeah.
He had a lot. I didn't have, most of Bourbon Crow was just kind of singer-songwritery, campfire, funny songs. So my fan base, it wasn't that much of a stretch, but for his fan base, he was taking a big leap. So, I tell people all the time, he was like, "Dude, if it wasn't for Bourbon Crow, this, that." I'm like, thank him. Because he's, I put out music all the time. He's the reason that Bourbon Crow even happened. So he really took a shot and took a chance. And I also think that's helped if anybody has an argument of the guy's talent, then say, "Okay, well, show me when this guy has done this," and then put on, One More Round, which is a brilliant song. Put that song on. And then say, "Can your guy do that?" And if he can't, that's my argument whenever it's ever brought up to me. I just think the guy's better than he's given credit. But I'm hoping this new record for him really pops, and he gets a good push, and he gets the push he deserves.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. I just saw the show with Dope and Static X and Raven Black, and even his stage show already is a lot different than the last time around. I'm looking forward to the headlining tour.
I saw him about a month ago in Greenville, South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a whole new stage show. He's doing some crazy costume changes, like just really great stuff. So if anybody out there has the opportunity, go to those shows. And it sounds like I'm having a big love fest for the guy, but I'm just trying to be honest with you. Like, he's one of my buddies, so, and he's about to put out a record, so check it out.
You're not the first person to talk so highly of him on this podcast, so that's okay.
All right.
You're like the third or fourth, so he gets a lot of love on this show. Funny how you mentioned Piggy D too. Which he plays with Rob Zombie now, and another guy that played with you guys on 90210.
Yes.
And you got to give yourself a lot of credit too, because as far as I can tell, you are just as busy as he is, because you are always releasing something, working on something, and of course you're always gigging everywhere. I don't think I've ever seen you really take a break.
No, I don't. I mean, I've been full-time creating movies, music, all kind of stuff for a long time. I think in that first version of 90210, and this isn't, I think Piggy D, myself, and Wednesday, we can all create art out of our head, right? We can just all create.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't surprise me that Piggy D has reached the success he has. He's one of my good friends.
Yeah.
He directed the video for When, for my second record, that has co-stars Calico Cooper, Alice Cooper's daughter. So Piggy and I been super cool, but he's such a creative guy too. I remember he put out a song, and I just saw a link to it, and it was to like a Jane Fonda workout thing. I was like, that's genius. How great is that? That's awesome. And I just texted him. I'm like, dude, this is fucking badass. And here's the thing. I dig kooky, stupid stuff like that. So he nailed it. But no, it doesn't surprise me at all that he's been in Rob Zombie. I think he's been now 13, 14 years, something like that.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
All of you guys off of that first record are all doing very well for yourselves. And I do have a lot more to talk about with your music career, but you did mention how you are making movies. So I do want to segue into that real quick before we loop it back around to your music. So you just filmed a final scene. I believe you said it was called Nido Mosquito. And
right.
In that movie, you have a bunch of independent wrestlers in it, I believe. And
I do.
How did that come about?
Well, Nido Mosquito, it's just quick plug. It's online. It's on YouTube for free. NidoMosquitoMovie.com should take you to it. When I get bored of writing music, I write scripts. I probably have 20 sitting around my house for movies that'll never get made. And back in 2009, I met up with a buddy who wanted to be a movie producer. And I was like, well, dude, I have scripts. And he was just going to shoot the movie. And then he wanted me to do the soundtrack. And then finally it was just like, dude, why don't you direct it? I was like, all right. So he and I did it. Brian Knox and I couldn't have done it without him. But we put this movie together, put it out independently. It got picked up for some distribution from the Sundance distribution folks for a minute. Got put in some art theaters and played at colleges. And we could never really get the right distribution deal for it. It was basically give it away and let them do what they want with it forever, or good luck, kids. That was it. And I just said, well, we'll just keep the movie. And one of the main characters, talking about the final scene, one of the main characters, it goes by the name Willie Windmill Kicks in the movie. His real name's Jerry. But he is another guy the movie would not have happened. Like, I write really crazy, over-the-top stuff that's funny. And, well, Jerry was really, in real life, in a wheelchair. He had been shot accidentally when he was 3, and his rap name was Shot at 3. So if you ever get a chance, look him up. Anyway, he passed away a couple of years ago from liver failure.
Oh, wow.
But, or kidney failure. It was something from being paralyzed that he passed away from. I'm not exactly sure, but the movie wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for him either. Like, he was pushing me because he had read the script and he knew what we were trying to do. He was like, "Go for it, Rayen. Go, man. Don't stop." And I was like, "Jerry, I can't ask you to do this." Like, there's a scene where the Nido Mosquito guy's giving him a piggyback ride. I was like, "Man, this is gonna look too crazy." And he goes, "Nah, man, you're good, man." He goes, he goes, "I'm not going to do it unless we do it like you wanted it in the script." So he meant a lot to me, and on that level, and he was like Brian's best friend. So the 10-year reunion of shooting it was coming up, and in real life, Jerry's dream was to be a famous hip hop artist. And so we reshot everybody asked us, is there going to be a part 2? And, you know, we had kind of joked around about it, but we never were going to do it. And then when Jerry passed away, we knew we weren't going to do it. And we were talking about shooting a new movie, and we were talking about honoring Jerry in the movie. And I'm like, hey, we never put a top on Nito. We can shoot a 2-minute scene. Because shooting a 2-minute scene on a high level takes about a day. Mm-hmm. We could take a day and shoot a last scene, and we can make him be a famous hip hop artist in this scene, and then we can end the movie. Because several of the actors in the movie aren't around anymore. You know, one of them moved, one of them doesn't want to act, and Jerry passed away, and it's just like, okay, let's move on and tell another story. So we're going to start that probably soon. But if anybody wants to check out my movie, if you like Clerks, Kevin Smith, Super Troopers, Juno, anything that's just really awkward. If you like awkward, Napoleon Dynamite. If you like awkward comedy, then you'll love it. NitoMosquitoMovie.com.
That's the best kind of comedy.
Or just search Nito Mosquito on YouTube, and you can stream it for free.
Excellent. So now to bring it back to the music, in 2007 you released 2 albums. You had demos for Diehards, and you had 1,000 Bars, 2 Stars, and 1 Guitar. Incredible songs on that record, by the way. My question to you about that is, do you feel that's when you really started to come into your own?
You know, that record I did a really, really singer-songwriter-y record with my first one. Then I went out with Wednesday, and I just wanted to rock again. So I took my songs and made them more rock and roll, kind of like more produced. And as far as my peak, as far as the solo stuff, yeah, I would say that is. I mean, you know, a lot of people would say my first record was that I peaked, because you have your whole life to write your first record, right?
Right.
So a lot of people, you know, and I'm like that. When Motley Crue, you know, like their first record to me is my favorite, and that's essentially was a demo. So a lot of people would say my first record, but I think probably, yeah, you're right. I think I came into, I kind of hit my stride in my second record.
It's such
and the demos for Die Hard, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
The demos for Die Hards were just demos that I did to record the record. Mm-hmm. And there were like a few songs I didn't put on the record that people still were asking for, because at the time it was during the John Mayer acoustic guitar guy craze, where anybody with an acoustic guitar and good songs had a good following. And I had a really great following. And I still do. I have a lot of really great friends and fans. But they were like, well, what about this song? What about that song? So I was like, I can just put out the demos. They're not going to be good. They're just songs for me to hear. They wanted it. So I printed it. I sold out. Occasionally I might find a copy if I'm in my basement moving stuff, but I have literally 1 copy left in my collection, and it's mine. So. Wow.
That's excellent. I love stories like that too. So that just basically came out just like it says, for your diehard fans who are just begging for the songs that weren't on the record. That's awesome.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I thing is, you know, still to this day, you know, if anybody wants to hear or check out anything I do, it's always, you know, an honor. So yeah, man, when people are asking for it, I'll make it happen, but I can't make it big, you know, produced. But they were really cool. Actually, a lot of people like that record better than the second record. So what do I know?
I mean, we're always more judgmental of our own stuff, right?
I think so. Yeah. I never listen to my own music. I don't think I listen to my own stuff. Once I record it and put it out, unless I'm somewhere where they're playing it, mm-hmm. I don't listen to it, you know. Like, not that I don't like it, it's just, you know, like I said, most of the songs just take you to a real place, you know, and most of the time your best work comes out of, you know, bad places. Good.
Right.
It's just the truth, you know. You can write a love song out of a bad place. A lot of people think, oh, he's such a happy guy, he wrote this great love song. No, this is what I was wanting to sing for the prayer. I'm such a heartbroken guy, you know. So a lot of the music were just more expressions of feelings, and I put them out, and you know, and it's an honor when people compliment me and check it out, you know. But I couldn't tell you. A lot of people ask for songs. I'm like, I don't even know what record that's on. So.
All right, fair enough. And of course, you being you and are always staying busy, then you jumped right back into Bourbon Crow, and you guys released Long Way to the Bottom. And again, this album seems a little bit more mature than the last one. It has its humor in it, of course, but it has some serious songs, fantastic lyrics. So was that part of the plan? Did you set out to make that change, or did it just kind of happen?
Earlier, when I was talking about how good a songwriter Wednesday was, my manager, or our manager for the Bourbon Crow project, he was aware of my solo records, and he knew I could write songs, and he was just like, listen, love the first record, but I really want to show the world you guys can write real songs. Write some real songs. I'll let you put a couple of campy songs on there, but I really want to hear some real songs. So I think Wednesday wrote like Bullet for You and One More Round, and I wrote Pour on Rain and In the Mood for a Drinking Song and a couple of other ones. And when we put that record out, we actually did tour, but it was just a mess. But we thought we made a mistake. We were like, man, God, we should have just stuck to the script. You know, these fans want to hear us sing about digging graves. They don't want to hear about Pour on Rain. That's what we thought. Because we were on that tour, like, man, did we stumble? But actually, that record, because I get all the reports, gets streamed and listened to more than the other two records combined.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, and when we're on tour, this lady pulls her shoe off and she has Pour on Rain tattooed on her foot in Sweden.
To a good old heartbreak song, and I yelled, pour on rain, pour on rain, pour on rain,
And then there's this couple that got, I'm drawing a blank, but there's a song Wednesday wrote about, the lyric was, you'll have my back even if you know we're going to lose. Something along those lines.
Oh, yeah. I know exactly the song you're talking about, yeah. Now I'm drawing a blank on it.
But when we were on tour, there was a couple who got married, and on their honeymoon, they both got that phrase at the same spot. So it's just like,
it's last call. Start a fight with the whole damn bar, and you got my back even though you know we're gonna lose. I use my one phone call down at the county jail, 'cause I know I can count on you to come and pay my bill.
People were getting those lyrics tattooed on them. So, we, at the time, we thought we stumbled, but I think, everything worked out correct because we were able to kind of bring it all together in the third one, I think.
Okay. And that was Take a Bullet for You, I believe, by the way.
Yes, Take a Bullet for You. Listen to that song. It's a great song. But this couple had the lyrics tattooed on them, which was awesome, but, you look back on it and go, no, it wasn't a mistake because these people are really checking this music out. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, you mentioned the third album, which was The Good, the Bad, and the Drunkly. How do you see this record right now compared to the previous two that came before it?
I loved it. I mean, Wednesday at the time and I were living a block away from each other on Sunset Boulevard in West Hollywood.
Yeah.
And we had the opportunity to buy back our first two masters and buy the ownership of all the ownership our former label had in it, or any interest they had in it. And I call Wednesday up. I'm like, listen, I can do this and we can own it and do whatever we want with it, or he's going to sell it and there's going to be a company who makes 25 versions of everything and we're never going to know it or have we're saying it. And I'm like, he goes, okay, cool. And then I just said, cause it, wasn't cheap. I just said, hey, do you want to do a third record? If we do, I don't have any money left because we just bought the masters, and somehow a Kickstarter idea came up and we did one, and man, the fans came through like crazy. They funded it so well. Whenever I went to make the CD, I decided to just give away the first two CDs with it as like a 3-pack, like a little box set. Just try to over deliver. Like, thank you. Here's one for your car. If you need an extra copy. So
awesome. And now you're doing a re-release of all of them on vinyl currently, right?
Yeah. The thing, I think all the fans and the people who follow us and my friends and everybody know that I check and run most of the Bourbon Crow stuff Not because Wednesday doesn't want to be involved. He's just so busy, and he's like, have at it. You know, he trusts me. But the most requested thing for the last ever, has been vinyl. And I did a greatest hits vinyl, and it sold out. And I messed up, and I only printed, I can't remember, it was 200 or 300 copies. And they sold out quickly, which Wednesday just found a box of them. So if you go see them, you can get one pretty cheap. But ever since then, they're like, when is more vinyl? More vinyl, more vinyl. And I'm like, okay. So I just put a question out one day. I had 2 kids ask me in one day, will there ever be a vinyl? I'm like, okay. Well, I called the place. I found out how much it cost to make them, and roughly needed to sell 100 pre-orders to pay for it.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so I just, because the fans that like our band, I take them for their word. Like they legit come through when they say they are. So I just put out, I said, if you want the vinyl, would you order it for this much shipping and blah, blah, blah. Just say yes below. If we get 100, I'll go through with it. So we got 100. I'm like, all right. So I call up the company. I start the process. I put the money on my credit card. I open the pre-orders, and boom, like 4 days we had 106, I think. And then I had a couple of fans from overseas write me, because sending one record over there is $22.50. And actually, once you factor in the box, is $25 just to ship it.
Wow.
And so I had a couple of fans write and say, hey, have you thought about doing the second record and just putting it in with the box? That way you could, because the weight difference doesn't tilt the price. It's still $22.50. So I'm like, you know what? How can I say no? Yeah, of course I'll do it. And I'm like, well, if I'm doing the second one, let's just rock all 3. And I call it the 151 Club, because I actually needed to break even on it, so it didn't put me in the hole. 150 pre-orders. Yeah. And we had 151 sets pre-ordered.
Oh, that's
which
awesome.
was really cool. Yeah, it was really cool. And we make the joke of the Bacardi 151 Club, but that's where they are. They're the 151. So they're going to get, for the first time, I'll announce on your podcast, they're going to get, the 3 records are going to be released as a trilogy, reimagined as a triple feature movie. And but for the first time, I'll let the cat out of the bag. You're going to get, I won't let it all out of the bag, but the 151 Club, for listening to my man Robbie's podcast, you're going to find out we're making custom trick or treat bags. Instead of making a box for them to come in, we said, fuck it, let's do trick or treat bags. And we're putting 2 tickets to an event in there, 3D glasses, the records are going to be printed on popcorn and candy colored vinyl. And it's a triple feature, because those songs, I'm not at liberty to tell you which ones are real. Yeah. But I can tell you they're not all fake. So they're stories, right? So I'm like, hey, let's put these out as little movies, and he was kind of thinking the same thing for his new record. So it made sense. And so we're putting them out as a special edition, thing. And, I think we're going to call it Bourbon Crow Fest, which doesn't mean you even have to leave. Just listen to the music, pour yourself a drink or whatever it is you like to do, and listen to the music and, celebrate it somehow. So maybe next year we'll re-release them on CD or something. I don't know. But I didn't let the whole cat out of the bag, but that's kind of how it's going to come. It's going to come as a, like the trick or treat set.
Awesome. I love that idea. I love it.
If you look at them, it says Bourbon Crow, and then Bourbon Crow Part 2, Bourbon Crow Part 3.
Okay.
So we're just reimagining them as movies. The first record, to me, in my head, I'm such a nerd for Quentin Tarantino that I thought that it would work great in a Tarantino film. Yeah. And then Rob Zombie put out what was the second one he put out with the Firefly family? It had the country songs in it. But he put out a record. I'm like, see, I knew our songs were perfect for that kind of stuff, which is good. Yeah. Sorry, there's a security guy looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm like a gigantic dude with a bunch of tattoos that's sitting at IKEA. He probably thinks I'm trying to sell drugs. All right, what were we talking about? You gotta remind me. I'm sorry.
No, we were actually just wrapping up the vinyls, but yeah, I love the idea, the concept behind the artwork. I'm actually excited to see it and buy them myself.
Yeah, man. You know what? It's cool because it's going to be something unique. Something, other people might get the vinyl. It's only like $250, but only I pressed 200 of all the bonuses, and so we'll find we're not going to be that stingy with them. We'll give them to the fans as long as they're around, because the minimum order on some of the stuff was 200. But yeah, if anybody wants to check it out, go search Bourbon Crow on eBay. That's probably the easiest, cheapest way to get it, because I have a little eBay store up there, and I'm the only one selling it, so it's coming from me.
Okay, very cool. Good to know. Now let's tie it back into your own music. In 2016, you released Love Can Get Dark. And again, songwriting is elevated. Lyrics are incredible. And same question as the last Bourbon Crow record. I was wondering what that album feels like to you right now, looking back at it.
That's really odd that you asked that, because I actually listened to that record a couple of days ago for the first time since I put it out. I knew what I was going through at the time. I was just going through a dark time with the relationship, which it turned out to be good, getting married to the girl I wrote half the record about soon. But yeah, I was going through some dark times, and when I put out just this cover of the song, the Hurt song, 9 Inch Nails cover, and it got picked up and written about nationally and a few things. I'm like, I recorded that on my phone. Like, that's not even a good recording. And then, you know, I started thinking, I'm like, I have all these songs that I've never put out. Like, I wrote those songs over the course of years, like anytime we'd be arguing or have a fight. And they were just expressions. And so I was like, if literally nobody noticed, the quality was not good. And if they did, they didn't say anything. And, you know, but it's not good. I'll tell you that. I recorded that whole record on my phone, and I haven't had them all in my voice memos, and I sent them to my friend, and he mastered them. And I'm like, well, you know what? These songs will find somebody at some point, at some time, and they have. I've had people write me several times. Actually,
see our breath in the stars, jump from Pluto onto Mars. Be my Sally, I'll be your Jack, and I've been trying to get back to this dream. If you'll be my 1031. I'll be your Halloween
song. There's a couple who just get married. Actually, well, not just married, last October.
Yeah.
And that was their first dance song. So, you know, it was a song. It was a CD that was unique about shitty relationship times, and I recorded it all on an iPhone.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Very cool. I like the concept behind that. That's great. Wow. I'm almost like don't know where to go from there, because I really enjoyed that story.
Dude, thank you. I have a new record coming out October 31st, Halloween, called "It's a Beautiful Day to Be a Bad Motherfucker." It's a more positive record, and I'm actually recording it in the studio. I'm still doing mostly acoustic, but it's going to sonically sound better. I'm working. Did you ever see the Rockafire Explosion documentary?
No, I have not.
Did you ever go to Chuck E. Cheese or Showbiz Pizza?
Yes.
Okay. In those things, they had these bands, right? In the Showbiz one, they had one called Rockafire Explosion. I highly recommend watching that documentary. So good. But when I was a kid, I would go to Showbiz Pizza, and truth be told, when I was like 5, I thought I was at a concert. I thought, holy shit, these guys are playing. You know, I didn't know any better. Well, the guy, oddly, and I connected in a weird way, and I asked him if he would design a video of one of the characters playing one of the songs. So the first single is going to be called "Love Like a Tom Petty Song," sung by one of his animatronic puppets. One of his puppets are going to sing it. I think Billy Bob, which is awesome. It's going to be really awkward, but it's I don't know. It's more of a celebration record. Where the last record was kind of a dark record, this one has got some mostly good moments. There's like one kind of like melancholy song, but for the most part, it's just a bunch of, you know, raise hell, party, you know, have fun music.
Awesome. I love the title too. That's great. That might be one of the best titles I've ever heard.
Well, you know, it's a tribute to two things. My favorite movie is Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
And, you know, which one is yours? The one that says bad motherfucker, right? That guy?
Yeah.
And then a guy who's become like a mentor, father figure in my life, a guy named C.T. Fletcher, his favorite catchphrase is motherfucker. And his saying is it's still your motherfucking set. So so it's a tribute to California and those two guys.
Awesome. Very cool. Now,
yeah, if you ever need a kick in the ass, look up C.T. Fletcher. He's the dude, man. He's a great person. So plug for C.T.
All right. Very cool. Now me and you we started communicating via social media with the Bourbon Crow account because of wrestling. I was wearing the Bourbon Crow shirt to the ring and doing promo pictures and all that, trying to promote Bourbon Crow. So, of course, it would only be natural for us to finally meet each other at a Bourbon Crow concert up in Webster, New York. So, tell me a little bit about what that tour meant to you on Wednesday to be able to do that again, because I know for a while there, I think you were saying that, I believe you were telling me that night that you weren't sure if you guys were going to tour with Bourbon Crow again, and then that all came about with the Unplugged tour.
Well, to be honest, after every Bourbon Crow record, we've always said, well, that's probably it. To be honest, because not because we don't like it, but we just like, what are we doing with this thing, you know?
Yeah.
And that was awesome to get back on tour, but that was a really crazy time in my life. I went through a couple of years of being on this crazy medicine. I'm not going to name the name. I don't want anybody to get sued, but I found out, you know, I'll preface this by saying, you know, everything's cool. But I found out within 1 month, both my parents had cancer.
Oh, wow.
And, they're both in remission. But mentally, when you hear your parents have cancer in the same month, you don't go, well, I hope, and the chances are your body starts to tell you, I'm about to lose my parents, right?
Yeah.
At least the era I grew up in, if you had cancer, it was a wrap. You know, it was going to be over. And thankfully, they've you know, overcome it and they're doing well today. But right after that, I think I found out at the end of November, we left the end of December, and I was just mentally a mess. Mm-hmm. So I hope we get another chance to do it again sometime, because that run was like musically we were great. The shows were fantastic. The fans were great. It's just I was miserable as a human. And, you know, so I didn't get to have as much fun as I'd like to have. But no, everything was awesome.
All right, very cool. I'm sorry to hear about your parents, but I'm glad they're both doing well.
Yeah. But, you know, just to be completely honest, that's exactly what was going on. You asked, was I happy to be out? I love those guys and I love playing with them. And to be honest, that tour really showed me how many real Bourbon Crow fans there are. You know, we'd be in the middle, like at the very top of Canada, like Bret Hart country. Yeah. And, you know, a lot of people speak French, you know, French Canadian. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, we're singing every word to every song, and I'm sure they, you know, I'm probably a dummy and not giving them credit for knowing English, but they didn't speak to me in English before or after the show, but they sang every freaking word of the song.
That's great.
You know? So, but it was really cool, you know, let's put it that way. Yeah. And, but yeah, I hope we do get a chance to do it, but if we do, you know, it's going to be a long time, because here's the thing, when we record the first record, I think the second record was like 4 or 5 years later. Then it was like 6 or 7 years later. He's putting out a new record. And as far as I know, he's booked maybe 2 years in advance. I don't know, something crazy. He's got a lot of great tours coming up. I'm putting out a new record. I'm doing a new movie. Like, it's going to have, like, Bourbon Crow happens like when the bat signal appears. Like, boom, there it is. We got to go. Yeah. When the timing lines up where both of us are available. And as far as writing the music, we can write a Bourbon Crow record literally in a day. Not, you know, in a bad, like, we're just badasses. We just get in the room, start laughing, and we just start, hey, what about that for a title? What about this for a title? And I think that last record took us like 3 days to write.
Oh, wow. So, that's impressive. Yeah. Wow. Okay. And of course, when I met you that day, you had the Bourbon Crow Championship title, which is going to lead me into my next question, because obviously this is a music, wrestling, horror movie podcast. Give me your Mount Rushmore of professional wrestlers.
Man, if I hadn't made anybody upset yet, I might make them upset now.
Well, let's just throw this out there. For you and Wednesday, we're going to say Ric Flair.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you know either one of us, you kind of universally know those guys are our favorite. My Mount Rushmore would be Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, Hulk Hogan, and Stone Cold. Nice. Those would be my Mount. Those are the guys I believe made the biggest impact for me. You know.
Yeah, for sure. And now you still follow wrestling. You even follow indie wrestling, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I check out your stuff.
I definitely appreciate that.
I love it. Yeah, man. Everybody check out Robbie's new heel move. I love it. It's awesome.
And oddly enough, the Nightbreed is because when we were coming up with the name, I was listening to the Frankenstein Drag Queens, and I was like, oh, the Nightbreed.
That's awesome.
So of course we're all tied together now. So.
Well, good deal.
Yeah. Now, you were telling me earlier, before we started recording, about Strawberry Fest, I believe you said it was called, right?
Yeah, a buddy of mine named Chad Adams is involved with a festival in Fort Mill, South Carolina every year, and it's called Strawberry Fest. Y'all look it up. He texted me a little bit ago. I don't think he can get on the phone call, but I told him I'd put the festival over for him.
Okay.
Strawberry Festival, and they highlight a lot of indie wrestlers, and I'm going to do my best to get the Nightbreed down. I'm going to try to bring you guys down to Charlotte.
Oh, we would absolutely appreciate that, man. Thank you very much for that. Now,
of course.
And you also said that you were watching guys like Cedric Alexander before they got the call up. I thought that was interesting, a little plug to throw into.
Yeah, I saw Cedric being coached by George South, and he was wrestling a guy named Caleb. I can't remember his last name, but he went on to wrestle in TNA, I think. But they were training, and I thought I was like, these guys are fantastic. They really were. And then I saw Cedric like 2 years ago at a YMCA at a charity event, and I was like, man, that's the guy I saw at George South School. He's so good. And then like a year later, the dude comes out in WrestleMania. So like I was telling you earlier, anything's possible, anytime, anywhere. You never know when lightning's going to strike. So, I fully encourage all my friends to continue their passions.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, it just takes one person to see it and tell one person, and you never know what, the dude went from a YMCA in Rock Hill to WrestleMania. So we're pretty proud of it here in Charlotte.
Amazing. Now, have you ever taken a bump?
No, I refuse to.
Okay. Fair enough.
I refuse to. Not out of disrespect. It's just, dude, I'm closing in on 6'5", and I'm a giant human being, and I just feel like if I will break every bone in the back of my body if I threw myself onto a mat. Like when you're wrestling like in a small room, it's loud. You guys are taking legit. I know you train and everything. There's no way around it not hurting.
Yeah.
I don't believe that for 1 second.
Yeah, you got that right.
Yeah, I don't believe that for a second. You guys are in pain. And if you're not, then you guys are definitely selling it. So,
well, it's not hard to sell when it really hurts, I'll tell you that.
But no, Wednesday and I both have a high level of respect for indie wrestling in general. We grew up in the era of Starrcade, Flair, Dusty Rhodes, Four Horsemen, and we both grew up in cities, small towns right outside of Charlotte. So that instead of having a football team or a basketball team or anything, we had music and wrestling. That was our thing. So
yeah, that's awesome. I feel like a lot of people who are into wrestling are also really into music, oddly enough. And funny story too, I have a picture of me and you, and I'm holding the Bourbon Crow title, and I have a picture of me and Wednesday, and he's holding my title. So
nice.
I just love how that worked out.
That's perfect.
So I'm going to ask you one more Mount Rushmore. Horror movies.
See, I get in trouble with this question sometimes because there's the answer that most people will give you. There's not saying anybody in particular, but I just hear this. You always hear the universal monsters and the creatures from the Black Lagoon. You always hear that stuff.
Yep.
I am a child of the 80s, so my favorite, reaching back to the 70s a little bit, my favorites are Leatherface, Michael Myers, Jason, and Freddy Krueger. That's it. Like, like a lot of people will be like, shouldn't you say, like, no, that's just the truth. So those are my Mount Rushmore of horror.
That's awesome, actually, because I'm the same way. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the old stuff. I could watch Vincent Price movies all day. And, Bela Lugosi and all that. I love it all. But as far as the Mount Rushmore, you gotta go with the classic slashers.
That's me, too. And a lot of people get upset when they remake them. I don't, it doesn't bother me. I love it. I love the fact that, remaking the movies has driven this whole convention, Comic-Con culture to be an accepted thing in every town, every city, every weekend. So you could go somewhere and meet somebody cool, and a lot of that had to do with remakes. And a lot of people shit on remakes, but they don't understand that, hey, you just got to meet your favorite dude because the remakes drove the attention back to this movie enough to bring that guy out of, retirement to do these photos.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I just took a photo. I just got to meet Tim Curry in Raleigh.
Oh, wow.
I know that It remake drove enough people to check out the original It to where, the numbers made sense to bring them in.
Yeah, for sure.
For a kid like me, that was my favorite horror as far as like movie, not Mount Rushmore characters, but movie. My favorite horror was that mini series of the original It.
Oh, yeah.
So, but I don't have any delusions that if it wasn't for the remake that, there wouldn't be enough money to bring out Tim Curry. So I'm thankful.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that very much, very much. And a lot of the remakes aren't as bad as people make them out to be either. They just really love their classic movies, you know?
Yeah, it happens with music too, though. Like, people they hear one version of it, and then when the band re-records it, it's like Kiss re-recorded their whole catalog.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. I love the music, but it's still not the same as the 70s. You know, it's like, you know the difference, but I get it, you know, but
yeah.
I fully support it.
Well, that being said, you have your own podcast that you're going to be coming out with. What is your podcast going to be all about, and do you have a title for it?
It's going to be called That Dude Rayen, and that's what my football coach used to call me when I was a kid because he couldn't pronounce my last name. That's been like a curse in being an artist, is promotion, because nobody can spell my name. So I figured if you put That Dude, you know, like the Big Lebowski.
Yep.
that dude, and then put R, I should be the only thing that comes up. So instead of putting Rayen Belchere, I'm calling it That Dude Rayen. It's going to be just more of a personality podcast about all the things I like, all the things I'm doing, you know, reviews. You know, I dig comedy a lot, so I might review some old comedy records. And it just be, you know, people who dig the stuff I dig, wrestling, horror movies, you know, music, you know, pop culture.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
And you're the perfect person for me to have on my pod because you do like all three of those things. And believe it or not, it's tough to get somebody who's into all three.
Oh, I believe it. I mean, I believe it, you know. Often I think I'm a weirdo for that. I'm like, man, how is it that I'm into all this weird culture? You know, it's not even weird culture. It's weird that, you know, I would be into all this random stuff. But what's great is when I meet people like you who are into it, we become fast friends, right? You know, like when when you're on the road, you meet somebody, you're like, hey, you like that? I see that tattoo. I like your shirt. And it, you know, so it's weird, but it's awesome at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. I always find people who are like really into horror movies or, you know, any type of like rock and roll, metal music or, you know, wrestling are usually some of the friendliest people I ever come into contact with. And especially if you can link up with the things that they like, it's just, like you said, fast friends immediately.
Absolutely.
So now we're going to wrap this up here in a second, but I do want to know what's next for you in the future. We know you have your album and your podcast coming out. Why don't you take some time and plug some upcoming events, gigs, and of course all your social media too.
All right. Got a new record coming out October 31st, Halloween. It's a beautiful day to be a bad motherfucker. Rayen Belchere. Working on a new movie called Cooter Jenkins, a backyard cage fighter. Think if Kenny Powers was more redneck and trashier, that's what this character is going to be. We're working on that, and you know, I travel and play random shows here and there. If anybody wants to keep up with it, just find me Rayen Belchere. I'm sure Robbie that you'll have a link somewhere that maybe they can connect with.
Yep.
Or go to That Dude Rayen. At some point, it's going to connect to my social media if you're listening to this in the future. And yeah, all you guys add me. I post the most random stuff. So if you like random, I'm not going to clog your feet up with politics and religion and any of that craziness. You're going to get wrestling pictures and dog videos if you subscribe to my channel.
All right.
So,
very cool. I will definitely, post whatever I can, and I will have you know that this will be airing in the afternoon before SummerSlam this weekend. So
right on, man. Well, I have to let everybody know. Everybody, thank you who made it this long. Thanks for listening. Robbie, thanks for having me, brother.
Oh, thank you, man. Truly appreciate it. I'm sure I'll be seeing you out there somewhere soon.
Absolutely, my friend.
All right, rock soldiers, make sure you check out Rayen on iTunes, look for his new album, check out his movies on YouTube, and of course support him, follow him, and keep up with what's going on with him and Bourbon Crow. And he's just got his hand in everything. Very underrated for who he is in the music business, and I'm so glad for anybody who is just hearing about him for the first time on this podcast. I hope you are a lifelong fan from here on out. And of course, as always, please check out the link in the description of this show for Insane Labs. I'm telling you, I've never looked better, I've never felt better, and you could save 50% off with code RVegas30. So check those out. With a huge discount like that, you have no reason not to try these supplements. And of course, the discount is also good for buy one, get one free products. So once again, Insane Labs, link is in the description. Thanks for checking it out, rock soldiers, and we'll catch you next time.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network. It's that time of year again, folks, the dog days of summer, and time to think about back-to-school shopping. Now save your time, save your money, and save your patience instead of going to Walmart and waiting in one line that's open out of 26 with 7,000 people in line ahead of you. Go to gearnetwork.com/Amazon and click on the back-to-school banner, and it will take you right to your account, and you can shop right there. And what's new this year, if you go there and you enter in your zip code, it's going to bring up the list of schools near your area. You can choose one and the grade that you're shopping for, and it's going to bring up the school list for that grade for that school, so you can cross-reference your school supply needs based on the list that was provided to Amazon. Sweet feature this year, saves you a lot of time. Again, gearnetwork.com/Amazon. Click the back to school link, do your shopping through there. It helps us out, it helps you out, and it definitely does not help Walmart out, but they don't need help anyway. So again, thank you for bookmarking and saving and sharing our links to Amazon through gearnetwork.com.